also Thursday morning for some of you across the world. So I'm Michelle, so your host for today, and I'm also the co-director of the Digital Nomad CMX community, which is powered by Bevy, alongside Sasmini, who you'll see in the chat moderating the chat today. And yeah, so thanks for joining us. We had like a really cute lobby session, so feel free to also post any of your socials, talk about where you're coming in from today. I'm joining from Melbourne, which is also the land of the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. We say something like this because in Australia we pay respects to our ancestors, or basically the people who used to own the lands in which we are, having this conversation. I'm having this conversation today. And I'm also the co-founder of Naru. So all that is my experience and why I'm involved in being a CMX host for the digital nomad community. And Sasmini over there, she's based out of KL at the moment, but she's originally from Sri Lanka. She's also one of the co-directors. And she's the founder of Digital Nomad Live, which is a newsletter for community slow mats, which is like slow living digital nomads, if you know what I mean. I'd like to all introduce you guys to our amazing speaker today, which is Dani. She has a really, really big profile of all these experiences, but I'm hopefully just going to breeze through a few of what makes her so special today. So she is the Senior Manager of Customer Marketing and Community at Apollo.io, and she leads over 8,600 members in a Slack community. She hosts online workshops, organizes in-person meetups, and oversees the whole customer advisory board. So any questions, again, feel free to drop them in the chat. She's also the founder of Spark Marketing and Creative Inc., which is an agency that helps customer-first B2B companies build community-led strategies from 0 to 1. And she believes community is a transformative force for driving growth, engagement, and advocacy.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yep, crystal clear.
Amazing. Welcome. Thank you all for dropping where you're from in the chat. Always love to see. So as Michelle mentioned, my name is Dani. So I'm based out of Vancouver, Canada, but I do digital nomading and snowbirding. I love using it as like an action word. But anyways, I like to snowbird usually out of Mexico and Thailand. Those two are two of my favorite destinations. And I have a soft spot, as you might notice, for places that are warm because I lived in Canada. It gets really cold in the winters. So if you guys are in any of those places, hit me up anytime. Or if you want to come to Vancouver, I would definitely be down to host you. So a little bit about me. Currently, my role is the Senior Community and Customer Marketing Manager at Apollo. So we're a sales engagement software. Not sure if there's any other salespeople here besides Brad, but we sell to mostly the sales persona. And also, in my spare time, I also founded a community consulting company called Spark Creative. I have a background in comms and PR, which I think it was interesting because I'm now in this field where I talk to so many people, but in the past, like it was more about interviewing people. I was more on the back end, but now I'm more on the front end. And I'll tell you a little bit more about like how I got here. But I joined the B2B SaaS software as a service world in 2016. And I first started in a pretty like unsexy industry in procurement software. And I was thinking about like, what are some ways that we can disrupt that? What are some ways we can really change the way people are thinking about procurement? Because to be honest, you don't really, you're not like excited to talk to a procurement person, no offense, right? But there was a way that we were able to kind of change the narrative there, and that was through community. And so throughout my career, built communities at other companies like Mutiny, Common Room, Procurify, that was the company that I was talking about, Rippling, and now Apollo. And I see there's some comments in the chat here. Sorry for not catching up. I feel like most Canadians hate the cold. I love the snow. Yes, exactly. I see so much of it, and it's always rainy here. That's why I'm like, sunshine for me. All right, so I just want to talk a little bit more about what community really means. I think a lot of people think about community as like a pretty big umbrella where there's like a own community, there's also like social media, which is part of like community management. And then there's also community as a noun, right? Like you want to build community with other people, you want to go to communities. That's another way to think about it. So how I think about it, and I think like one thing that I was inspired by was this graph from McKinsey & Co. It's actually a better way to build a brand overall. I don't know if you guys remember back in like the Y2K era, right? Like that was the era of mass media where if you got on Forbes, if you got on one of those fancy magazines as a company, like you basically won, right? You solve for reach, like you can reach a ton of people at the same time, and it just means like your company is the best, right? Like buy from us. And then we slowly started to shift to the era of personalization. I would say this was probably usually in like I think in the 2010s, basically when the software as a service industry started to really pop up, people realized like they can't just be reaching everybody. They need to reach the right people. And that's when personalization came in. They started to tailor the messaging to the people that they actually care about and might buy your product. So people got smarter, right? And that's when you'll notice a lot of content marketing, a lot of email marketing started to pop up. And then slowly people started to realize, oh crap, I'm getting way too many newsletters and emails in my inbox. And I'm getting spammed with all these ads. Like, what do I do now? So now we're in this era of community where it's really about solving for influence, right? Who are the people who are actually influencing your buying decisions? Who are the people that you actually trust, right? Like you want to buy from people nowadays. Like people don't want to buy from brands. People want to know that if you do buy from a brand, that there's real people behind it and that there's real people who are, also fans of the product before you actually pull that trigger. So just wanted to ask if there's any community managers here in the room, or is everyone kind of in different roles? Feel free to drop in the chat here. Oh, amazing. Yeah, Hillary, if you want to come off mute and talk a little bit about your community and why does your community exist? Be a one-liner.
Sure. There's two kind of core communities for Maslow. One is the financial systemic investment professional group, and then there is our customers or future customers. So small bit of context, Maslow is a bank, is a financial services company that is changing the financial system for the world so that we can have greater financial equality. Obviously, there is much more to that, but it's a bit harder to put in a few words. So we have the customer side that we use the products, but then we have the people that are very passionate about changing the financial system that we all have to work in and ensuring that there is greater equality around the world.
Got it. And how would you describe your community? Like, why does your community exist, and how does that help your current customers?
The systemic side is the community exists there because there's a lot of people that want to see change but haven't actually seen a vehicle that can help them enact the change that they're looking to see in the world. Whereas we are an organization that they can see may actually make some systemic change rather than talk about the need for systemic change. Customers, the community for customers it's a better banking product. It is a product that is for them and their community rather than using customers as a investment vehicle for people to get richer.
I love that. I love the words that you mentioned too when you said for them, like you're serving the customers, right? And that's really like, the core of communities that you're giving back. We'll love to also hear quickly from Deborah as well, and then we'll move on here. Deborah, if you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, so I'm head of community for Coco, and our community is for the people who use one of our products specifically, not really customers, that's not the right word in this case, but it's for people who use just one specific thing that we do, and who want to connect to more, and it's based on peer support, anonymous across different platforms. So then they want to engage in others who are doing the same things. They want to have those longer conversations with like-minded people, and just have access to more mental health tools and activities, and other things like that. And so our community is the place to do that and have those conversations in a safe place that is for those members only.
I love that. I love how mission driven it is too. And I think a lot of you have mentioned like the words peer to peer, right? Support. You've also mentioned giving back. So I think you guys have really nailed it on the head. It's really about providing value, right? Whether it be your customers or the people that are in your community. And I love talking to people who get community like on the get-go, because a lot of times when I speak to people in other roles, such as even founders, a lot of times when we're talking about community, they're always like, what ROI could I get, right? Like, how can I extract value from the community rather than focusing on what value could we provide into the community for the people who are in it. So love to hear that. And also, Brad, that's very exciting that you're launching a community. Hopefully this presentation helps you out here. So moving along, oh, I just lost my cursor. One thing I wanted to highlight is that community as a whole, it shouldn't just exist as a silos, but it should also be a conduit to enable all parts of your go-to-market strategy. So even though you guys might be leading communities right now, I'm sure you also work with a lot of people within your organizations, right, day to day. And I don't know if you hear this or not, but I definitely get this, where a lot of times people in the organization are always wondering like what is the value of the community, right? Or like how can I get a piece of the pie? Does that resonate with you, or like how are you currently seeing working with other people in your communities? Feel free to drop your answers in the comments.
I think I'll share an example that I have, but
Mhm.
for example, I'm working on a product and the product has a community because it gives us the feedback and everything that we need to understand how we should position the product, because our communities are almost for us like an early adopter.
Mhm.
But at the same time, communities take time, and communities, you see it through the engagement you have to have with them, the ongoing relationship you need to have with the people. So it's very easy to drop the ball on the community and just focus on like getting a sale or, trying to make things work like mass
Mhm.
kind of thing. But it usually doesn't give back the same amount of value as having only a few couple of people who you really know how to give value to helping you out. So I think I'm always juggling between the two, like, which hat do I need to wear more of, and how can community replace almost the sales and everything else in a way, or encapsulate it, I'm guessing, in the same way that you're putting it here in Flywheel.
Mhm. Yeah, I could definitely resonate with that, Michelle, because it's like a lot of times, right? It's like, should you do community versus something else, right? Like sometimes it's about making that trade-off, right? You can only invest so many resources into it, and it's definitely like a longer play. And I think this is what I'm excited to talk to you guys about, where I feel like the opportunity for community is how you can really use it almost like fuel, right? To enable our parts of GTM. Like Brad, I know you're in sales. A lot of the people who are in sales, like they do also leverage and connect with people in the community to help them close a deal, right? I'll talk a little bit about how we do like our customer references program as well. So I want to talk a little bit about like some of
Can I
the
just want to give you a little bit of context about what I'm doing, because I'm viewing
yeah, for
community
sure.
as a customer retention play.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
Mhm.
that's where my thinking's going. So I'm interested to hear where you go with this disparate programs and building it into it.
Absolutely. We will definitely talk about that. So yeah, like on the left here, you'll see there's a lot of roles that are somewhat close to the community, but a lot of times like you see a lot of silos, right? Where if you're in a large organization, you might see like field marketing, social content, demand generation, right? And if you're in smaller companies, like you might just see mostly sales marketing. And then you might have a community on the side. So what I want to talk about is how can you really like unify those into a flywheel where you can use the community to power a brand, you can use that to power product activation and demand gen and field, plus all of that good stuff with around advocacy, around retention. So I think we can skip this because we just talked about it. Cool. So let's start with community and sales. So how I think about it when you're working with other people in an organization around community is to think about what the customers want and also what the leadership on that particular team wants. So in sales, what people in sales, what sales leadership usually cares about is, of course, the revenue, right? All the deals that are being booked. Maybe it's all about the deal size, maybe it's about how quick you win that deal. And then it's also to the individual sales reps, it's about their quota attainment. Whereas on the customers or the community member side, they really want resources to help them make a good purchase decision. They might want a discount on the deal. They might want references and social proof, right? Like learning from other people. I think someone mentioned like mutual support. And maybe they are just kind of on the fence for buying a product. They just want to try it out for a few weeks or something like that. So a trial. So what are some programs that we can launch, or what are some ways that we can really marry community and sales together? I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any ideas before I share. So how can we build like a win-win?
I think part of the way we can have a win-win is by, as community leaders, we can learn a lot from the customer. And so there's customer insights that we can provide to GTM that can help them adjust their approach to particular demographics within the community or particular aspects.
I love that, like surfacing like insights, right?
This is going to get really salesy, but so I see community go-to-market as, it's they often say that 5% of the market is actually in market, and then there's 95% of the market who's either problem aware or not aware of the problem yet. And I kind of see that as part of the go-to market play within community, right? It's a place where we can go and share resources to move people from a position where they're not problem aware to the point that they are problem aware, and then they're in your ecosystem. Is that?
Absolutely. Like turning them into someone who may only know about, the industry, to someone who knows about your product, to someone who actually wants to buy. I love that. Like moving them down the purchasing cycle. Yeah, that's a really awesome point. Yeah, moving along here. So you guys all have some really good ideas, and I see you there, Deborah, as well, to use the community to evangelize and turn members into new lead sources, right? Like there's no reason why the community can't also be a source for prospects to eventually buy. And those are all really, really awesome points. So one thing that we did, first off, in Apollo, as an example, is that we actually created a customer advisory board within the community. So we host our community on a Slack channel, just for reference there. And we built out like an entire CAB charter. So like system of rules and governance for the best customers that we have. And then we also run a private Slack channel for them to learn from each other. So I know that was a common piece in a lot of the ideas that you guys had, is that people want to learn from people in a similar position. So one of the programs that we built out within the community is our customer advisory board, where they're able to trade like playbooks that they use in Apollo. Because Apollo, it's a pretty complicated platform to really learn. Like there's a lot of modules where you can really get your hands dirty with it. But the hardest part is getting started. So we built the community in the very beginning stages, where we only focus on our happy customers in their CAB. So every week, all we did was give them a prompt and be like, hey, what's an idea that you can build in Apollo, and share that with everybody else. So that's kind of how we got started. And then eventually we realized like the CAB is also a really amazing source for our salespeople, because sales is always thinking about like, I have a deal that needs to be closed and this person is like XYZ role. I would love to hear from another person that's in that role. And so we eventually grew our CAB even further to other people in the community that are also customers. And then we built out a customer referenceable library for our salespeople, where anything within the community, such as happy customers saying like, I love this feature, here's why, or any sort of metrics, any sort of, really awesome insights that can help them close that deal, we put them in there and we made it sortable. So I don't know if you guys can see the Airtable screenshot there, but essentially we put it in a few columns where we have the company name, the use case of the customer, a link to whatever they said. We usually put it in a Drive link, link to the webpage, and then on the very right-hand corner, which is cut off, I'm sorry, the link to the actual Slack thread that it happened. So what eventually comes out of this is that eventually the community becomes a source of really amazing customer insights and referenceable quotes that a salesperson can use. But also ultimately, if you're looking for a person to help you close that deal for you, that is a customer right now, you can get that through the community. So those are some examples of how we currently work with sales to really, number one, get the deals closed, but number two, also to really move the deal faster forward. Because a lot of times, like with SaaS products like us, the sales cycle is often quite long. They need to jump through many hoops. But the more people that we can get in the door when it comes to approvers, but also people who can evangelize for us, the better. Moving forward here, so community, content, and social. This might be the more obvious ones out of the ones that I'm going to provide as examples, but it's a similar line of thinking, right? So what do customers want when it comes to content, and what does content leadership actually care about? So I'll go through this pretty quickly here. So what customers normally want is that they may want more personal branding and thought leadership. They want to be seen, right? They want to build their careers. And then what content leadership cares about is that they want to make sure their content is being read. They want to grow their subscriber list. They want brand presence. They want to see that customers are talking about the brand. And they also have a few other things like maybe distribution metrics, such as engagement, followers, if you have like a social media channel and whatnot. So that's really what content leadership wants, and what are some ways that we can marry what customers want and content. Gonna give a few pauses here as well. And hi, Sean, just saw you join. Nice to see you. And I just realized I might be behind on time. So Michelle, let me know if I'm pacing okay. Yeah, you got it. I think this is a pretty obvious one for folks, but these are all really awesome ones, Michelle. Like user-generated content, testimonials, exactly. So one thing that we did throughout our community is that number one, we user-generated content, as you mentioned. So we actually did a customer awards program called the GTMs, where we had people nominate the best customers in Apollo, but also we had a self-nomination form where if you're a customer of Apollo, you can nominate someone from your team or even yourself. And we had a few categories where they can win, where it's like winner of the Moonshot Award, where people had like really crazy plays in Apollo, and that was one of the categories. We also had like Founder of the Year Award, where some people, they're running Apollo solo, right? Like they only have maybe 2 people on their team, and one is a founder and he's also a salesperson and a marketing person. So we have one category there. We had them, apply through the program, but also we launched this through our community where we had our community nominate people that they met through the community. So it was almost like a little flywheel where I wanted to give credit, say, to Sasmini, where I want to give credit to Deborah. And then when Deborah saw it, she's going to be like, well, I have some people in mind too. So it became almost like a win-win thing too for customers, where they are, really recognizing each other, but also it makes it proud for all of their accomplishments in their career. And then afterwards, we gave them like a series of headshots. We gave them a series of social media posts to really get their name out there and essentially make them be the stars. Another thing that we do, and I think, Michelle, you mentioned this too, is testimonials from community members. So it's not on the screenshots here, but what we do is that every single time a customer says something that they love about Apollo, we actually have like a wall of love on their website where it's constantly, on demand. So anyone says anything, they tag Apollo, it shows up. But on top of that, we have also given them like some swag, right? We send them some swag where then again, like they're like, oh, I didn't even expect that. Because my philosophy around swag is that we don't promise it, but if people, do something that's really nice, or if you notice something, like we send it as a surprise and delight, right? And when it's a surprise and delight, people love it even more. Oh my gosh, Sean, that's amazing. Yes, the Apollo versus Zoom info chatter. Yeah. And also one thing that we do too in Apollo is that we share all of our community events through social and content. And it's not just all of the events hosted through the community, but also events that we host in Apollo as well. So what we do is that we tag each person that's hosting the event with us, like speakers, community members, and also we like to share a similar screenshot that we took today where it's like the people who joined the events and the people behind it, because ultimately, you want to surface the people that are behind the community. And the thing about, platforms like LinkedIn, even platforms like TikTok, right, and Instagram, it's a lot about, giving others credit, right? When you're only focusing on promoting your own brand, you're not really part of the overall conversation, but then when you're involving other voices, that's when, your content really multiplies. Okay, moving on here. This is one of my favorites to talk about, which is community and product. How many of you guys, work with your product team on a day-to-day basis? Just a quick raise of hands. One, yeah, I see. Sean, yes. Yes. So think this is what I've seen at least, but correct me if I'm wrong in your orgs. I've seen like a lot of disconnects between, product, not product marketing, but like product and marketing in general, where sometimes like product ships something and then marketing's like, oh crap, like we need to catch up and we need to market this. Or sometimes product's not ready and then marketing's like, oh crap, like, well, we've already marketed it. Like, what do we do? How do we like bridge the gap in expectations? So again, going back to the framework of the win-win method, right? Like what do customers want and what does product leadership care about? So what customers usually want is that usually they want to say in what you're building, right? They want in on the features that they've been asking for, and they want the promises being kept in the product that they paid for. They might also want visibility on the roadmap, like what's coming up, and they also want to like know how to use the product better, especially if you're already paying for the product, right? But I doubt everyone is an expert of the product. Like they may be in certain phases in their usage. And product marketing, they care about, validating whether they're building the right things that make us money. They care about new signups, of course, acquisition. They also really care about like whether people are actually using the features that you're shipping, right? If people are not using it, then there's probably something wrong there. And of course, they care about like retention and their customer lifetime value. So yeah, just curious on what you guys think regarding win-win opportunities for community and product. What are some ideas that you guys can think of? Oh, Sesmini, yes. I love the Notion example. Yes. I love Notion's playbook where Notion kind of essentially has like a library of prompts, right? Or templates where creators of the community, they can like submit it. And I believe they can also get an incentive, right? I don't know. I haven't checked their program in a while.
Yeah, I am part of their template creator community as well. So we get like, there's a leaderboard and everything, like the community get into this a lot. But then like, when you talk about like product and marketing teams collaborating together, they have like a lot of features that they put outside through like marketing channels in a very, very interesting way. I saw like one time when the Notion like these avatars came out, Snoop Dogg changed his LinkedIn profile picture. And I was like, oh my God, how did you guys get Snoop Dogg to change his profile picture? So that was really cool. I think like product and marketing wise, they work together very well. And then in terms of community, like there's like a Notion has like an official community for template creators. And that is the only official community that they maintain, and they do like a lot of work inside that.
Yeah, I love that. That was so crazy to see like all these people on LinkedIn like changing their headshots. Such a smart brand play too, right? Where people are like, oh, where can I get one? And then that makes them go to the Notion avatar app and then into Notion eventually. That is so smart. Sean, I do see your comment, so I'm going to quickly answer that. Are you measuring performance estimating? Seems to be a lot of enablement for users, super fans. Outside of seeing growth, how do you track that back to the community? Yeah, so we actually do have a way of tracking like new users from the community. So we usually have like a UTM parameters where like if there's new signups through the community, so community is a source, And then on the other end too, when we promote something out on social or on other communities, like we usually have a link to that too. And then also, I think like the way that people sign up for the community, it's really evolved throughout the times. I'm not sure when you were a customer of Apollo, but back when I first joined in, I guess like early 2024, so last year, it was actually a really janky form. So you've been a customer for a while. That's amazing. Yeah, so it was a really janky form where essentially just like people fill out their information and then we send them a link to join the Slack community. But then now we've built out like a workflow where you can actually like measure the attrition rates for like, which email does the person actually get into the community, and then after that, what do they do next? So a little bit more like multi-touch. Let's see. Message from Deborah here. That's the hardest updates for me to get. Product updates. Yeah, exactly. Let me move on here. And then because that is a common problem, and we get that as well, where a lot of people in the community, they're like, what are you guys building? Or, they might be flagging a bug, and they'd be like, are you going to be improving this? So I'm going to give you guys some examples here on what we do at Apollo. So one thing that we used to do, but currently we actually put a pause in this program, but what we used to do, and this was extremely effective, was we had it in Slack AMA every single week where we brought in all of our product marketers to really just be online for 1 hour in Slack, and people can ask them any questions about the product. So I know, like Deborah, you're mentioning, like people are asking questions, you don't know much about it. Like, I don't blame you, right? You're not a product marketer. Like, you may not be as plugged into the product, but there are probably people who are. So again, this goes back to kind of like getting the team's buy-in on the community in the beginning, and also building that flywheel with them, right? What do they actually care about? Like a lot of the product team, they do care a lot about retention. They do care that people are using new features, right? So they should be incentivized to know, hey, you have this awesome community of people who are customers and users, and there may be a way where you can bring them in to, answer some questions from the community. And this could be like a cadence, right? So it doesn't take up too much of their time. So we used to do that. Right now, we evolved this more into advisory boards where we have like an enrichment advisory board where there's like specific people who care a lot about enrichment in Apollo, and they're very passionate about it. So the advisory boards, we segment based on ICP, so ideal customer personas. The enrichment one is more around like the RevOps and marketing ops people. And then we also have one for sales leaders as well, like sales leaders who have like a sales team underneath them. And then we also have a practitioners group where it's AEs, BDRs, people who are usually like doing the cold calling, doing actually like the emails and follow-ups. And then another thing too is that we log every single feature request. We have a channel called product feedback and requests. And like the one from Muse here, there's people who just give us ideas on what to build, right? And then we usually loop in someone from product to validate that. And also we make sure we reply them back with saying like, hey, we got it. This is going to be on the roadmap, or if it is not on the roadmap, we usually explain like why and what we're building instead. So those are a few ideas to kind of like get your vein juices flowing. Another thing that we do is that we do run our betas through the community. So right now we do use Slack, but we do have sub-Slack groups where every single time we're going to be launching something, we want to test it and validate it with the early group of users that would be open to giving us like feedback, right? Before, what we used to do is that we used to get them on a live call, which got a little crazy because, with people's schedules, right, across different time zones, it's hard to get people in a room. So instead, what we did is that we used Slack to really drive these sub-beta Slack groups where people can ask our PMMs and ask our engineers live, and they can just write up a quick message or even like a Loom video of what they're facing, and then we can get back to them right away. So here's some examples around how we really work with product and product marketing. If you don't really have a product marketing team, you might be one of the lucky people who might have to wear both hats. You might need to just be a little bit closer to product, where it's an opportunity for you, right? As a community marketer, sorry. You may also want to really brush up the product knowledge, right? And loop in the right people so that maybe you're not the person answering every single question, but then you're also providing value to product to let them know these are people who actually do care about what we're building. All right, moving on to customer success and support. This is one of the ones where I get the most questions about when I'm working with founders and people who are building communities for the first time. Because few worries that people always get is like, if we build a community, especially around customers or prospects, what do we get? What if we get haters? What if we get people that, are dissonance and they come into the community and they say bad things and it kind of snowballs, right? Or even, as what Sean was saying, right? Like if people mention a competitor and then it gets a little out of hand, what do we do, right? So just talking a little bit about, what the day of a life is like for CS and support, right? They're really kind of managing a lot of these like churn risk, and they're trying to retain the people who are actually using the product. They're also looking at renewals. They're looking at whether people want to expand, or maybe there's, oh my gosh, Deborah, you're wearing all 3 hats. Dang, you must have busy weeks. Yes, this presentation is definitely leaning towards like people who work in larger companies, but if you're wearing multiple hats, that might be something where you're already thinking about, right? Because you're already thinking about how all these pieces fit together. But anywho, what they might also be caring about is that if you're a product-led company, right? If you have any paid signups. So a lot of times you start off with a free trial, but then how many of them actually convert down the funnel? And they, of course, also care about NPS and ticket resolution rate. So if people are like emailing your support team all day, every day, and only a few of them get resolved within, say, a few hours or a few days, that's not great, right? They want to be able to close them off. And what do customers want? Pretty similar. They want their questions answered. They want advice on product usage. They want to get more out of it. And they just want to have their problems solved, essentially, right? So what are some ways that you can leverage the community to help do that? Feel free to drop it in the comments. And one quick note, I know a lot of you are in smaller companies. So if you're also wearing the customer success and support hat, maybe the question for you guys instead is, what is a way that you can provide support for customers through your community at scale without having to reply to each one of them? Yeah, I love that. Getting the community to help the community. Yes. Any other ideas? Ooh, that is so smart, Sean. And LinkedIn to the content. Nice. How did you build that out, if you don't mind me asking, through the auto reply? Was that through your LinkedIn or something else? Oh, we can't really hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. So the LinkedIn wasn't autocorrect because I write LinkedIn so much. I meant it was basically a Notion. I was the only customer success person, and essentially it was just taking every week on Friday, taking all the support queries and then making a response and screenshotting solutions or feedback, and or even actually without product roadmap. And then I just would get so many emails and auto reply saying like, thanks for your email. Are you looking for one of these 3 things, which was like our product roadmap, feature requests, a Notion resource with the latest like FAQs. That was like a common issue that week, and a few other pieces of content. And then I would like slowly reply to people, but it was more actually about pointing them in the right direction than having to reply to them one by one. So yeah.
Got it. That is so smart. And that's super like high leverage too, because you're kind of like building this resource once, and then it kind of covers like a lot of the frequently asked questions, right? And you can just kind of throw them that link. That is super smart.
Thank you. It was very stressful, but it worked.
Yeah, I'm sure like when customers are like, what is this? Yeah. work like that on Discord. I wonder, Deborah, I haven't really worked with Discord personally, but I wonder if there's some automations that you might be able to build, or like there's tools that sit on top of it. I know there's a lot of tools for like Slack instances, and there's tools like circle.so, if you guys have heard of. But yeah, I wonder. I'm gonna move on here. So yeah, a few things that we really work on with customer success. So one, I think a lot of the common requests that we get from CS, and if you're someone who's also wearing this hat, is around like customer advocacy and case studies, right? Customer success, they're always looking to see wins from their department, but also like how can they really amplify that win so that the entire organization can benefit from it, and so that the sales team can also benefit from it. And then with these case studies too, that's also considered like a logo retention win, right? So that's one thing that I get a lot from the companies that I've worked with when it comes to that. So one thing that we did back at Mutiny is that through our community, we sourced a lot of these playbooks where essentially they're like case studies, but they're like a lot more tactical and they follow the same pattern. And this was really amazing because surprisingly, when you do a case study with a customer, it actually improves their retention, right? Because they're bought in and they feel like they're giving back. So it's almost like a psychology thing. It's almost like when you ask for something from somebody, they're even more likely to really stay your customer or stay your friend. So that's one thing that we did, and that was really awesome. And we did that at Apollo as well. Another thing a lot of you have mentioned is that getting customers to help each other, right? Getting people to really jump in on threads or jump in on questions from someone else, but it might like take a little bit of hand-holding. One of the common problems that I've seen from communities and also from other community managers is that they're like, how can we get this to become a common practice without us having to jump in first? And what I usually say is try to hold yourself back a little bit more in the beginning, because it takes time to really build build like muscle memory, right, for people to do that. And it might take a little bit of like incentivization in the beginning, where say like there's this question from Yoshi, right? Maybe I know that Michelle is someone who is really good at using conversations. Maybe like I ping Michelle in the beginning, and sometimes these things don't scale, but these are the things that really build that stickiness in your community. Maybe I ping Michelle, be like, hey, there's a question from Yoshi. I know that you're really good at using conversations. Can you help him out? Right. Another thing that you can also try to do is that you can also try to like tag a few people publicly. We've also tried this back at Mutiny in the early days when we only had like a 80-person community launch, where sometimes we just started like tagging people, and people, when they see that they're getting tagged, they jump in, and then they realize like every single time they help somebody, that person really appreciate it, and then we would also send them a little gift afterwards. As we started to scale, this of course got a lot harder. So now that we're like a over 8,000 person community, we've also implemented this really cool tool called Channeled, where you're able to actually like build workflows, right? Where if it's like a specific support ticket, we can send that over to support. If it's a specific feature request, we react it with a different emoji. It sends that to product. And then we usually give it some time. Like we don't send them to this workflow right away. Like we give it some time for someone to jump in if they're available. If we can answer it, then we answer it. But if we can't, then we send them off to a different workflow. Let's see. Hillary says, what if you can take it to the next layer and try to respond with the exact FAQ question? Yeah. Deborah, I feel ya. Even when you have something written out, sometimes they don't read it. Totally agree. Like we also have a really great knowledge base that's like powered by AI. You can like ask it a question, and technically you might be able to find the answer. But the thing is, not everybody is down to do that. So sometimes what you got to do is that you might want to direct them to the exact article, and you just keep on training them, right? Training everybody on,
Yeah,
first-
no, we do that. We do that.
Okay.
This is the exact link to the question you asked. Here's the one you actually meant to ask, although I don't say it like that. And then for more, you can also go here, or if it's just a one-off or whatever. Yeah, no, we do that. And then we also have you can search it, and people just don't. They're like, no, I just want you to answer. I'm like, I did. There's my answer in that. That's all my words. All of it. All of your questions right there answered. Even the ones you haven't thought of yet.
Sean, I love that. As a user, my favorite response is speak to a human. Yeah, I feel ya. And I think like a lot of times too, right? Like people, they do just want to hear from a real person, as you mentioned, right? They may not want to look at the knowledge base, or maybe like, you know, they already looked at it, they don't understand. So I think like this is the hard part of being a community manager sometimes is a lot of times it's about repetition. But then there's also this really cool tool called what was the name of it? I need to find it for you guys again. I forgot the name, but I use it every single day. Simple snap tool or something like that, where essentially like there's prompts that you can create in like almost like a memory bank on your computer. And then for example, I would program like K to knowledge base. So if someone asks like, oh, where can I find information to learn Apollo, right? And then I just press K and then it'll like type it up for me. So it makes it at least a lot faster for me to like type the whole thing. There's also like a cheat sheet that we build in Notion for people who are part of the community. So like other employees at Apollo, where let's say I'm on vacation, right? Like no one's going to be able to answer these questions, right? So how can you really scale that? Maybe you can train your other team members on here are some best practices in case they ask you this question, in case that you ask that question. If you don't know, right? If you don't know, then how do you really escalate that to somebody else? Let's see, how are we on time? Oh crap. Okay. I am definitely behind.
Yeah, I was just gonna drop in. We do have the event until 1 o'clock. Sorry, in the next 5 minutes. If people need to go or have any urgent Q&As, we can ask a few now. But if not, I'm happy to host it for a bit longer for you to finish, Dani, because I think we are all enjoying your session so much and love to still keep learning from you. So if anyone does need to leave in the next 5 minutes, you can drop a quick question. If not, we'll continue. And I think we'll end perhaps 10 minutes over time. But anytime you guys need to leave, feel free, and more than happy for you guys to do so. Is that okay, Dani?
Yeah, that's totally fine. Sorry about that, guys. Like I was losing track of time.
Okay.
Hey, Sean. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we're almost near the end anyways. The last thing that I wanted to also talk about is going global, because I know this is also a challenge when it comes to working with your team and also engaging your customers. So I just wanted to ask you guys, like, how are you currently engaging different time zones, different cultures, different people? Yeah. Just saw that from Deborah. Tools that help with time embeds. Ooh, would love to hear what you're using, because I'm always like trying to learn how we can really serve, you know, a more international audience. It's tough, right? With time zones. Yeah. Asking for voices on times and subjects. Yeah, totally. Thanks, Hillary. So again, like the framework still applies, right? For going global. So what do customers want? What leadership cares about? So leadership, they care about, you know, new territory, revenue, and pipeline. Like, can we win customers in a different country? A lot of times, like a lot of these are actually experiments, right? A lot of times they may not even know if you can win customers in different territories. And this is where I think a lot of like global community building can come in. Leadership also cares about like local coverage within those geographies, and then a really good going global story for PR and brand. I know a lot of my American clients where they focus mostly on North America, but then they realize like there's actually like Europeans who are using their product, and they're like, wow, why are we not telling the story? What customers care about too is that, you know, they want to meet like local people. They want support in their own time zone, their own culture and language. And maybe the tools that they use are actually like different, right? I've heard a lot from our Latin America customers that they love our Slack community, but they also have a sub community on WhatsApp. It seems to be like the tool for Latin America. And I'm sure there's other ones too. Like I know for a lot of my Chinese and Hong Kong based friends, right? Like they use a lot of WeChat. There's like WeChat communities out there too. So just kind of being mindful, right? Even the platform that you use, the language that you use, and the types of events, there may be different ones depending on where they're located. Thank you for sharing that, Deborah. I need to take a look at that date time coordination. Yes, I will need to search that up. So a few things that we've been doing as we're going global is that, of course, when it comes to the events that we're doing, we are not just trying to be very like North American centric, even though like we started off in the North American region. We actually started to empower a lot of our power users and a lot of the people in our community who are loving it to really be like the community leads in the community. And that's similar to, I think, what you guys are doing too, Michelle and Sasmini, where the digital nomad community is a subset of the CMX community, right? It's kind of like a chapter of that. So chapters is a really good way to get started because, Deborah, as you mentioned, like you can start asking people who are in that geographic time zone what they would like to see. And also you can really leverage their expertise even, right? And eventually, when you start to see that these people are being passionate about it, you can start giving them a promotion, right? Giving them perhaps even some incentives or even like a little budget to run these events. So the first picture is actually like our first global event. It was actually in Sweden, which is super cool. One of our customers hosted it and we just enabled him. So we really shipped over some swag. We gave him a budget, right? We picked up the tab and it went really, really well. Another thing that we do is that we also have sub communities in our community groups where like we have city names in North America, of course, like New York, Canada, but also we have like places in India. India is one of our biggest global communities. In Latin America, specifically Mexico and Colombia, where we designate a community host that is also bilingual. So that's something that has been a challenge for us because a lot of our team, unfortunately, like they're monolingual, they're mostly English speakers. But right now, as we started to really expand globally, we've also brought in some people within the organization who speak a second language, and this is really cool to see because you'll start to see that these conversations are happening too in like different languages, but we also like to provide a translation too for the English users. And the last thing I would say too is again around like the surprise and delight piece. One thing I would say is that for a lot of gifting platforms, unfortunately, it's still there's still limitations. Like a lot of them are very unfortunately like North American centric. So sometimes when I'm trying to send something out to our global customers, it's saying like this cannot be delivered at a certain country. So what I like to do is that I like to have like a little spreadsheet of preferred vendors and where they ship to. So then it's like a quick cheat list where, if I need to send something to this person, I know like which vendors are actually available because I don't want to disappoint, right? Because I've had situations where I wanted to send something to somebody and they're like, oh, I can't even receive that. So I have to like last minute think of something else to send them. So just keep that in mind as well. So I know I'm totally over time. Actually, if I stop now, I think we're right on time. So
Amazing.
yeah.
Thank you. Did we have any Q&As? Because I think you did answer heaps of questions throughout the event, so I was very happy about that format actually. Don't think we have any Q&As in the Q&A tab, but yeah, we can just spend the last 5 to 10 minutes just chatting about what did you learn from the session and what can you implement differently if after everything you've now learned. And do connect with Dani in LinkedIn if you want to have access to more of what she does and follow Apollo as well. But Sasmini, did you have any questions from the session today?
No, I think like Dani answered everything on like live the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I really like that. So Apollo is a sales tool, right? And then but you have thought through all the roles. I feel like most of the community managers we know are actually from like really small organizations as well, not like as big as Apollo as well. So do you have any advice or like how sort of like your thinking works when it comes to like figuring out like all the departments, what their specialties are, and like sort of like working on community as well as not stepping toes with like marketing or products. So like that, like how do you like sort of do the cross collaboration really well? Like, do you have any advice on how to communicate things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's actually somewhat easier if you're in a smaller org because like there's less cooks in the kitchen. And when we launched the community at Mutiny, right? Like at the time we were 40 employees. And so the community almost became like a project that everyone was bought in the very beginning, where we talked about, there's a few really key ingredients to building a community before you even get there. Where one, do you have really engaged customers that love you, right? That's speaking about you publicly. Two, it's like, do you already have like a newsletter or something that customers can continuously follow? And then three, it's like, do you already have, some really decent content that you want to like share out, right? Those are really the key pieces that you really need before you build a community. These are like really good signals. And then afterwards, you designate a goal, right? You designate a goal for the community. Is it going to be like customer acquisition? Is it going to be retention, like what you're going to be building, Brad? Or maybe it's simply around like brand recognition, right? So think like these goals, this is really the most important thing to set with your other team members, because a lot of times the way you think about community might be different from the way we think about it. So setting shared goals in the very beginning will ensure that, you're really building towards like mutual success.
From like, I haven't started this, so I'm thinking all the way back at the very beginning, but do you have any advice for like how you would go about thinking about what platforms to use in terms of like, you've got to use, how to identify, what's the most appropriate platform to use depending on what your users. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I think it depends on like your ICP, to be honest, right? Like their usual roles. So for a lot of people in the B2B SaaS world where, I work at, they're already using Slack in their day-to-day, which is why, we decided to use Slack because it's very familiar to them. But I can imagine if you were in another industry or if you're selling to other ICPs that they may be also be considering other platforms too. Like I know for a lot of more traditional industries, like if it's like manufacturing, for example, right? Or even real estate, a lot of them, they do use more WhatsApp groups. And then there also might be some communities out there that also use Discord. I know like some nonprofit communities use Discord. There's some engineering developer communities that also use Discord. So I would ask around your best customers, Brad, or the ideal people in the community that you want to get in, and just ask them like, what are the ways that you really connect besides, LinkedIn, and see what they say.
Are there any cultural sort of things that you would point to rather than just like identifying where they are, but sort of like key traits cultural wise from platform to platform?
Yeah. I mean, this is just from first impressions, speaking to other community members. It seems like Discord is the place if you wanted to. It seems to be more like on the developers, more technical side of things. Like a lot of technical users like to use Discord for some reason. I don't know why, but it just seems to be the place. And then for WhatsApp, it seems to be like in Latin America, that's kind of like the go-to. And then I've also noticed a few founder communities starting to pop up in WhatsApp because it's just a lot easier to be able to get people's numbers on the get-go and then text them. But usually WhatsApp communities are a little smaller in scale because it is harder to build those subgroups. Yeah, gaming communities too on Discord, or like streaming communities. Slack still seems to be the most popular one if it's like for B2B software, just because it's really easy for people to get on just because they're most likely already using Slack if they're not yet using Slack. I've also seen some really new, interesting ones pop up where I've even seen like LinkedIn group conversation communities where they may just be more of like a temporary one where, like for example, for SaaStr was part of one where they had like an event that was coming up that year and then all the attendees wanted to connect in one place. So I would go back to think about like, what do you want to offer in terms of the community, who you want in the community, and then ask a few target people that you would want to invite and then see what they have to say.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, Circle is also an interesting one too. Yeah. It's also like I love the interface. It's like super clean. Yeah, and Facebook is a common one too for B2C too, like consumer brands, fans of apps. Any other questions?
What's your opinion on LinkedIn groups?
LinkedIn groups, oh my gosh, I think they're dead, to be honest. I haven't been in one where like people are actually talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
The
agree.
only one that I was in recently was just like an alumni group. So Rippling has like this alumni community on LinkedIn that they were trying to like resurrect. And I told them like I don't think this is gonna happen because people are LinkedIn groups are really like dead. I mean, I could see like LinkedIn Live being a thing, right? If you wanted to host events through it, but yeah. Yeah, age too, Deborah. That's a good point. Older age groups for sure.
Awesome. I think we talked about every community platform out there. Yeah. And I think I loved just reflecting on what I've learned today, but I loved your examples in each and every avenue of that community flywheel. So when you talked about, for example, community and content and social, well, yeah, it does make sense for you to use LinkedIn. It does make sense for you to use platforms like Instagram if you're like a B2C, but it doesn't make sense for you to, let's just say, do customer support on LinkedIn or Instagram, because that's a complete different space in where people might want to go further into the FAQs, or they want that one-to-one interaction, and that kind of platform doesn't allow for it. So it could be that you use more than one platform depending on, which part of that flywheel you're really focusing on. But yeah, it's great. Thank you so much. We have pretty much finished and wrapped up for today.